I'm going to start the live stream to YouTube. So that just takes a few seconds to start up.
Oh.
Are you happy for, you want the position, then the answer, then the position, then the answer?
That's a sequence I would like, yes.
Fantastic. That's where we're going.
Brilliant.
Okay.
So are you ready to kick off then, Peter?
Just a few seconds more.
Hi, Nikki.
Hello all.
Hi.
Nick.
Just a few seconds more. Right, we're good to go.
Okay. Right. Shall I start with problem one?
Okay, well, let me make a few introductory remarks first. So this match is from the first round of the Melbourne Open, and there were about 64 players playing $1,000 Australian dollars, and I looked it up before we started, so that's about £500. So there's about £32,000 in the prize pool. So it's big stakes tournament. But they don't have much in the way of tournaments in Australia because it's not easy to come and go from there. So they have a high stakes tournament once a year that coincides with tennis to get people to go over there. And I think we had a contingent of about 5 British people. So there was Cecilia, Chris Rogers, Gaz Owen, Julian Minwaller, and Sebastian Wilkinson, who's one of our featured players tonight. And this is the first round match against Benjamin Lund from Denmark, who's a strong player, but hopefully not as strong as Sebastian. And we're starting off in game 1 of an 11-point match. So black's on roll, white's got 2 checkers on the bar, and black is deciding whether to double. And on that note, I'll pass over to Mr. Bennett.
Okay. Well, at least it's the start of the match, so there's no complicated score implications. But the first question I always try to ask when I'm thinking of cubing, or whether if I've been cubed, is it a take? So if I'm going to cube, is it a take? And if you're in any doubt, Wolsey's law, if there's any doubt, it's a take, you cube. So I think it must be a big double. Black is going to win lots of gammons when he wins. So for me, the question is it a take for white? So obviously, if black finds a 6 and he has a 5-point board, things are looking bad. But half the time, he won't find a 6, and white is favourite to either come in on the 2 hitting or come in on the 6, and then things are not looking so bad for him. So I don't know. I was in a real quandary over this, but without any pressure, I'd just take, because I feel that white has enough wins here. I mean, if black has to perform quickly, or white will hit or come in, and once he comes in, he's in reasonable shape.
Okay, so a good rule about blitzes is that from the starting position, there's some early blitzes where you start off with a double 3 or a double 5, and your opponent's on the bar against the 3-point board. And quite often they're double takes, but they're comfortable takes for the side who's on the bar. Now, when you're on the bar against a 4-point board, or you have 2 checkers on the bar against a 3-point board, then it's much more difficult because you've got some gammon losses. Now here there's an extra complication that black slotted to the 2-point. And as Peter says, the problem is that it's great for him if he covers, but if he doesn't cover and he gets hit, then white's right back in the game immediately. So I would start off by saying, let's just have a look at a quick cross section and say, well, okay, black covers about half the time, so half the time he doesn't cover, and then he gets hit about a third of the time. So of the 36 games, we can say, well, black's winning 2 of them when he covers, and white's maybe winning 1 of them when he hits. So we can start off saying, well, black's a 2-to-1 favourite. But when black does cover, then I think he's going to win an awful lot of gammons here, because it takes white just too long to come in. So it turns out the real question here is actually, is black too good to double? And maybe we should move on to the solution now, Julia. So on the left-hand side, what you can see what the computer says, that it's next to what I call the big green pill, which is actually much more of a yellow pill here to indicate that black's winning lots of gammons. There's an arrow to the left of that, and that's kind of yellow colored, which means that the computer's unsure about the decision. If it's green, it means it's certain. If it's red, it means it's completely unsure. But yellow means it thinks that it might be right, but it's not certain. So the equities, it says, is that white, it thinks, is very close to too good, but not sure, and that black has a very big pass. So the key numbers are above the green pill. You can see that black's about a 3-to-1 favorite. So the initial estimate of 2-to-1 was a bit conservative, because even when white comes in and hits, it's not as though he's going to win all those games. But the key factor to see is that next to the 74% of black's wins, there's 56% of gammons.
So I'm not doing too well so far.
No, but on a positive note, your percentage is sure to improve. Okay, so can we get the next problem then, Julia?
Ah, yes. It's a funny one,
So
because
now we're on to the next game. So black is leading 1-0 to 11, and white is the one who's deciding whether to double.
oh right, yes. Oh, sorry, yes, I misread this. I saw the double one, but it's not on the board. I was thinking white had a double one to play, so I haven't considered this as a doubling problem. So white can escape with 6s. He can complete the prime with a double 5, double 1, double 5. Black's got 2 men behind the 5 prime, and white has only 1 man behind a 4 prime, not at the edge. If he jumps out and black fails to hit, white's obviously lost his market, and so I think this has got to be a double for white. So I would say the question then would be, is it a take? If white fails to get out, black's always got the problem of extricating his back men, even if he successfully attacks. What would I do over the board? I say double take.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. So I think the key point here is that, as you say, white's definitely got the advantage. So he's got a marginal race lead. But I'd look at it in terms of saying, well, suppose white rolls perfectly. Suppose he rolls a 6-5 and gets his back checker out. Then he's going to win an awful lot of games, but black's not going to get gammoned that much. And the key difference between this one and the last one is that black's got an anchor. So he's just going to sit on the 2-point, and if things go badly, he'll run off the 2-point later on and save the gammon. So white's definitely got the edge, but black's actually got a comfortable take here. So I think we need the answer, Julia, if that's okay.
Only a small double.
So reading the numbers briefly, it says that white's about a 2-to-1 favorite. It's a small double based on the threat of him running out. It's not just rolling 6-5, he can roll 6-1, or he can roll 6-2, 6-3, 6-4 and get missed. It's very good. But as I say, if you look at the gammon losses, you'll see that white's only winning 15% gammon, so it's much less than the last one. So black can take this based on the idea that the worst that can happen if he passes, he loses 1 point, and if he takes, then he's probably only going to lose 1 more point. So double take was the cube action over the board. And then if we get to the next problem, Julia. So black justified his take by rolling a double 6 to get his 2 back checkers out. And now black is 1 roll later is wondering whether to redouble or not.
Yes. Right. And I can't remember what I thought for this. I can't see the pit count. Oh, yes, I can.
Yeah,
Four.
so black's leading by 4, 100 to
Yeah,
104.
yeah. So he's only got a small, small race lead. So if white can escape, he's in good shape. Does the score have any bearing? Not really, because black's only 1-0 up. Will white lose a gammon? Not many. If black attacks straight away and white doesn't move again, he will lose a few gammons with one checker closed out. Black could make the bar point with a number of rolls and white will be in real trouble. But there's not many rolls that do that and not many rolls that attack cleanly. So I would say V double take.
Yeah, so that's what happened over the board, and it certainly is. It's correct to double, and it turns out it's actually a pass by 100. So could we see the answer again, Julia? So I think the problem with this position is not that, as you correctly identified, there's not that much that white gets wiped out immediately with. But the problem is, how does he actually manage to escape his last checker? So it's not the immediate danger of him losing, it's the fact that this danger might well persist for a while. So what would happen is if black doesn't get a good number, then he'll maybe bring another checker in or two to the 6 or the 4 point and get some more builders to attack white. And at the moment, you can see white only got a 6-5 to escape safely. So it's not so much there's so many market losers now, it's that it's difficult for white to get out of trouble. So the danger persists for a while. But you can be gratified by the fact that you can see that Sebastian thought it was a take as well. So you're in good company in taking this one.
Good.
So after Seb took, and now the cube's on 4, we move on to the next problem, which is black to play a 6-4. So the sequence is after Seb took, black rolled the 2-4 to point on the 1 point, and Seb fanned.
Yes. So black has several choices. He could make the bar, turn his 4' into a 5', but doing that he leaves an immediate 2-6 and 2 other blots floating about which could be picked up for a total of 4 shots. Or he could clear the mid, which would also leave 3 blots and 4 immediate shots. And being hit would be very costly with other blots lying around. So I decided on the safe play, bringing 2 in, 11, 5, 8, 4.
Yep, okay, so that's exactly right. So if we could see the answer, Julia. So yes, again, black's got a very good position, and what he should aim to do is to try and win the game with minimum risk. And you can see what he did was he actually went to make the bar point, and that doesn't really actually help him that much. It helps him bringing the position home safely, but he's only got 2 builders to point on the 2 point. And trapping white behind a 6' is not really what you want to do. What you want to do is to point on him on the 2 point. So you still get 2 builders with your play to point on him, and you don't give the 4 shots. So your play is clearly superior, but he made the bar point, and then Seb came in with a 2-1 to enter and hit on the midpoint, and then black came in with a 2 to re-hit on the 2 point. So Seb, despite the fact that he'd rolled his good number to come in and get back in the game, Seb ended up with lots of checkers sent back, which takes us, I think, to the next problem. So now black is trying to bear off with a 6-3.
Yes. So obviously black will win a lot of gammons here, whatever he does, provided he doesn't get hit. When I'm trying to estimate how many rolls it would take white in this case to save for gammon. I refer to something I learned from Bruce Becker's Backgammon for Blood. In fact, probably the only useful thing I learned from that book in the 70s, which is I use half rolls. I don't use crossovers. I use half rolls. So checkers he has from the 18 or from his 10 to 7 are one half a roll. 11, 12, 13, 14 is one full roll, and so on. So I just count the number of rolls, and just looking at that, it's black's comfortably winning a gammon if he doesn't get hit by a couple of rolls, probably. So that's one thing to look at. So he doesn't have to sort of worry about ripping checkers off unless it's the best thing to do for other reasons. But here, he has to take the 6 off. He could play 6 to 3, but it's actually very dangerous to do that, because then I think it's 8 rolls will leave a double shot. So the idea of single jeopardy, getting down to clearing the point as soon as possible rather than leaving double jeopardy. If you play 6 off and another 3, so 3 off, you only leave 6-5 as a blotting number, but you may have to get down to the position where you have 2 checkers on the 6 point, so you'd have double jeopardy. But the thing is, the second jeopardy is so much worse that I wouldn't go for that. I wouldn't play 6 off 6-3. I'd play 6 off 3 off here.
Right, so can we have a look at the answer, Julia? So black followed your argument, and you can see the computer doesn't like this play. And you're right in your assessment. If you look at the color of the green pills, you can see there's an awful lot of yellow in the green pill, and the yellow is indicating the games that white wins the gammon. That black wins the gammon. So as you say, black's doing very well in winning the gammon, provided he's not hit. I think the interesting thing about this position is the idea that usually your play would be right, Peter, on the basis of saying that, okay, you have the double jeopardy, but by the time you've left a shot, you've got lots of pieces off. So even if you're hit, you can still win. And the reason why this is an exception is because white's got this pile of checkers on the 2 points that he needs to get into the game. So ideally, white would roll 5-3 or 3-6 and be able to make the 5 point and have 2 points, 2 anchors that you've got to bear off against. At the moment, he's probably going to have 1 blot on the 5 point. So the idea is to say that before he establishes the 5 point anchor and has the 2 points, that you try and give your shot quickly, so that when you roll the bad number, the 6-1 and the 5-1, that you can hit with them and put him on the bar. And that way he doesn't have the double shot. He's going to have 11 directs and maybe 3 or 4 indirects as well. So it's a case of saying that you want to get the jeopardy over with now before white can construct his defense. And there's some numbers for white where if he can't move off the 2 point, then he might well choose to run off the 20 point already, and then you're guaranteed to only leave a single shot. So you can see if he rolls some 1, 2, 4 combination, you can't move the back checkers. So again, you're in good company. But this one, I thought, as I say, was an interesting position, because I think most people seem to get this one wrong, that it's an exception to the rule of saying that you just want to bear checkers off so that when you're hit, you're in good shape. So Benjamin ended up leaving the shot, but you'll see in the next picture that he got missed. So now he has a choice with the 4-1, and this one is a really interesting one.
Yes. Well, obviously he can take 2 checkers off, but then next roll, if he gets 2 high numbers and gets hit, he will have this extra blot on his ace point, which is in danger of being picked up. So the question is the extra checker off, does that win enough extra gammons to compensate for the risk when he is hit of having the other man picked up and then being in severe danger of losing the game? And I just judged that it didn't compensate. So I would just play 4-3 off.
Okay, so there's another advantage of taking 2 off that you haven't discussed, is that black comes down to 4 checkers. so that he's in danger of winning a backgammon.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So if we could see the answer again, Julia. So you'll see that this one I've rolled it out at a different value. So he played 2 checkers off, which is a very aggressive play. And as I say, the threat with this is to win the backgammon. So you'll see at the bottom pill that there's a substantial red element developing on the left now, which is the extra backgammons that black is winning.
Mm.
But the problem he has here is that he's already leading 1-0 to 11. And with the cube on 4, the backgammons will take him up to 13 points out of 11. So he overshoots by 2 points. His backgammon value has gone down. That winning the backgammon only gains him an extra 2 points. So he should be aiming to say, well, what I'd like to do is win a gammon and get to 9-0 up. That should be sufficient to win the match.
So if we tried this position in a 13-point match, these plays would probably swing.
Well, what I did in terms of analysing it was I put the position in at the same score, but turned the cube down to 2.
Yeah.
So that's the analysis I've got above the pills. And you can see there that 2 checkers off is better by 45 millipoints, when you can use all the points from the backgammon.
Mm.
So I have gone through this match with Seb, and he said that when his opponent took 2 checkers off, that he was delighted because he could see a possible route to victory if he managed to hit on the 3 points and there was another block lying around.
Yes.
But unfortunately, or fortunately as it went for Seb, black played this aggressive play of taking 2 checkers off, and then his next roll you can see he got a 3-2. So he managed to make the 1 point and cover up his remaining blot. So the good news as far as Seb was concerned was that he managed to hit and lose a single, but the bad news is that he didn't get the 2 blots and have a chance of winning the game.
I see.
So that left Benjamin with a comfortable 5-0 lead going into the next game.
Right.
So one of the problems with doing these positions is that you're presented with a position without knowing how you got there. So this is 2 moves into the game. So black started with the opening roll with 4-1 splitting, white rolled 6-6, and then black rolled a 3-3.
Okay.
So now Seb is thinking of doubling, and on account of the fact that he's trailing 5-0 in this match.
Yes. Certainly at the start of the match, I wouldn't double, and even at this score, he's hitting, unless he rolls 2-2, his hitting numbers are not that great, while he has a weaker board than Lund, because he will leave lots of return shots. So I wouldn't double.
Yeah, so turns out you're right, and Seb was wrong in doubling. So if we could see the answer again, Julia. So given the fact that black's 5-0 up, white's 4 more points behind, then he wants to be doubling at any excuse. And really starting the game with 6-6 is enough of an excuse to double normally. But it's not as though black has done nothing. He's had the opening rolls and he's had a 3-3, which is another 12 pips. So white's race lead is only 7 pips here. And black has the stronger board already. So the net result is the computer says that this is actually a no double, as you said. So it's difficult to overshoot here by too much.
Hmm.
So Seb did double, and things went his way, big time, shall we say. So now we have white with a 6-4 to play.
Yes. Well, the play that's screaming out to be made, even if just to please the audience, is 11-5, 7-3, hitting twice, the double tiger. So the alternative is the rather prosaic 11-7.
What I call the girly play, yes.
Yes.
And I did say this to a girl who I was teaching, and she said, well, the girly play is to make the best play, whether it involves hitting twice or not.
So really, as I wouldn't have any hesitation to hit twice, because although black's got a 3-point board, he does have a blot sitting there. So in the melee, if white does get hit back, he could pick up that extra blot. He'd be very unlucky. Only what is it? 5-3. 5-3 is the only roll by black that would come in hitting twice. No, is that right?
Yes. I mean, he wouldn't turn his nose up at a 3-3 or a 5-5 by any stretch of the imagination.
So the most likely continuation is black comes in with 1 hitting, then white would have to be unlucky, 3/4 of the time he comes in on black's board, and some of those he hits the extra block. So I would just pummel him with 11-5, 7-3, particularly at this score. He wants a gammon.
Yeah, so the counter argument is that if you make the safe play of 11-7 and 10-4, then you'll pretty much sew up the game and say to black, well, okay, I'm going to try and gammon you anyway, but I'm not going to give you any winning chances. So the plays are close. I think I'll go that far. And if we go on to the answer, you'll see that your play is spot on, Peter, is better than Seb's play. So he played the girly play, and you played the brave play, and your play turns out to be right. And you'll see at the top that I've rolled it out at a level score, so at 0-0 to 11. And it's another of these plays that switches round. So if it's 0-0 to 11, then you should be happy taking the safe play.
Right.
So the difference here is, I just looked it up before we played, that white's gammon price is slightly higher. It's not particularly high, but certainly catching up 4 points, so we're trailing 4-5 is an indication that we should verge on the side of aggression rather than caution. And the other question is to ask, well, suppose the game goes against us as white and black's actually thinking of redoubling. So if things are going his way, then he might well be thinking, well, winning a gammon with the cube on 2 will take me to 9 again. So black's really got to have an iron grip on the position to be able to recube. So playing boldly for white means that you get more gain when it goes right, but less cost when it goes wrong. So you'll see here that the computer says that at level scores you should play safe, and at this score you should put a bit more effort into trying to catch up.
Yeah, okay.
So if we go on to the next position, Seb chose the safe play.
Yes, I was shocked to see that. But anyway, so, yes, this is tricky because the automatic play is kind of 22-20 with the 2, but that's just playing to come second. So you have to think about alternatives, because the race is dead and you're very unlikely to get a shot if you do that. So 9-4 is the other option. So you've got a strong board and make things slightly more difficult for white to bring the position home. And instinctively, I just feel that's right. That's what I would do, play 9-4. But I mean, it's not without risk, obviously, because you could lose a gammon. But I don't think there are that many gammons to be lost.
Yes, no, I think what's coming through with this is that the reason why, or one of the reasons why you're a very good player, is you have an aggressive instinct that you like to actually try and win the game. So in the last position, you were keen on making an aggressive play to win the gammon, and here you're saying, well, I want to make the play that's definitely going to win most games. So let's move on to the answer with this one, and you'll see again that this one, Benjamin was the guy who followed your advice, and the computer doesn't like it. So what this is the converse of the previous one. So the previous one, you were right to play aggressively because you're trailing a lot in the match. You want to get these valuable gammons. But now as black, you've got this 5-point lead you want to protect. So you're saying, well, it's at least if I make the 20 points, I'm just going to calmly lose 2 points, and then I'll be leading 5-2. So it's a case of saying that you basically just want to settle for that losing 2 points is probably the best you can hope for in this position.
Right. Okay.
So he played boldly, but still managed to save the gammon. Seb didn't roll anything good, so it just ended up in a boring position where Seb came home and Black ran off the gammon. So next position, if we may, Julia.
Yes.
So now Black is leading 5-2, and Seb is deciding whether to double.
And he's got a big race lead.
Yes, race lead is 38, so about 40 in 120, so about a 30% lead.
And I mean, he has a few market losers if he can just clear the mid. And with that huge race lead, while Black is still relatively undeveloped, I would double and just let him have the problem. I used to, as Black in positions like this, I always used to think, yeah, must have a take because I've got these two anchors. But the two anchors ties up lots of checkers and can make you get short on play, convenient play, and can lead to a gammon if you have to run off the anchor, one of the anchors at an inconvenient moment. So it was the take that I was unsure about, but I would take. Did I say double take in my notes? I said double take, yeah.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. Actually, it turns out if we go on to the answer, Julia, that you can see it's a small double and a comfortable take for Black. And the reason is that the reason why the computer's saying it's only a small double is there's not really a lot in terms of market losers at the moment. So even if you manage to roll a good number to clear the midpoint, you've still got the 11 point to clear, and he's still got his two anchors to defend with. So I really thought only double 4 was the number that was
Okay.
really impressive in terms of missing your market by a wide margin. So Black, 40 pips down, you can see he does get gammon sometimes, but the gammon threat isn't really that serious. Whichever of the anchors he's forced to run off, he'll probably just run off the 7 point if he runs out of time and just play from the 4 point. So in that sense, it's quite comfortable for Black to take because he can pretty much regularly rely on the fact that taking is only going to cost him 2 points at maximum.
Okay.
So it did go double take, and I think Seb managed to win the game serenely. So now we come on to the next position where Black is doing well and leading 5-4 and deciding whether to double.
Yes, with the big race lead. I think John Barnes wrote an article about these sorts of positions as to whether they're doubles and whether they're takes, depending on the position of Black's rearmost point. I'm afraid if I did read it, but I can't remember the details. So I would instinctively think that White does not get enough shots here. If Black's anchor was on the 11 point, 6 away from, if Black's rearmost point.
Yeah, if the 10 point was back on the 11, then
Yes.
White would have much more hit
Yeah.
shot getting opportunities, and then it would be an easy take. So one of the methods I suggest to people in positions like this is start off and ignore the score and decide if it was a money game, if it was 0-0 to 11, whether you would take or pass.
Well,
and then once you've done that, whatever your answer is, and you might say it's a big take or a big pass or somewhere in the middle, and then say, well, how does the score change that? As White, am I more or less keen to take at this score?
Well, I'm afraid, I have the same trouble with money. I'm not sure. It may be a take, but the difference would be you're giving Black's even away from winning the match. So you don't really want to give him 2 points to take him to a score of 7, where he he has just 4 points to go. So that would make me even more inclined to pass.
Right. Okay. So now we've heard your verdict. Let's get on to the solution, if we may, Julia. And you'll see the computer says that you are exactly right in your judgment on both sides. So it says at a level score, it's a close decision, but just to pass. But at this score, it gets to be a big pass, as you say, because we don't want black to get to 4 away.
Yeah.
The danger is that we know that black is favourite in this position, so most of the time he's going to win the game, get the 2 points and get to 4 away, and then he's just 1 game away from winning the match. So it's one of these interesting scores where if you're naive about it and you say, well, I'm trailing on the score and I should be more keen to take than normal, then you're missing the point that you don't want black to get to 4 away. So you're actually more keen on passing here than you would be at a 0-0 to 11. So now you score double points for that, the right answer for the right reason.
Oh, thank you. Good.
So black ended up winning his 2 points. So now he is leading 7-4. So 4 away, 7 away, effectively 3-0 in a 7-point match. And he has a difficult 4-3 to play.
Ah, yes. Not very nice choices. So what could he do? He could play safe, 6-2, 5-2. Doesn't solve the problem of his outside points, and white could improve, so make the problem more difficult for black later. But the other options are not very enticing either. So it's 18-14, 5-2, or 13-9, 13-10. What else? 13-6. I decided on the safe play because I just hated the other options, but that could be completely wrong.
Okay, so that's what he did, and the computer hates this play. So let's go on to the solution. So the problem with the safe play is that at the moment white's got 2 blocks in board. So if you play safely, white's board's going to improve in strength, and then when you leave a shot, he's going to have a stronger board. When you getting hit might well be fatal. So the computer, I think all the people I've shown this to, no one's actually got the right play yet. The computer likes the play of the 2 down. And when you see that's the best play, then it's not too hard to see what the computer's seeing here, is that you're leaving 2s and 6s to hit, which are both numbers that you need to cover your blocks in the home board.
Yeah.
And when you lure him off the anchor like this, then suddenly you can say as black that if he chooses to hit me, then it opens up the blitzing opportunities for black. That black's now got the 13 checkers in the zone, left the one that's been hit. So even if white does the hit, black can come in with 1x, say, and maybe hit and end up winning that way. So it's definitely a position where it's more of a pay now, pay later. So if you don't pay now, you'll end up paying a lot more later. And it's the duplication that makes it a big number.
Right. He's still black. Still got the problem of the checkers stuck back on the 18 point, but
yeah, the problem for black's game is that he's missing what I call the point in the 3rd quadrant. So he's lost his 8 point and he hasn't got any substitute for it. So it's very difficult for him to bring this position home without any risk. So what he needs to do is say, well, I need to make sure I've got a 5-point board before I start leaving any shots. So when the shots are left later on, he's got something to fight with his 5-point board.
right.
Okay, so next problem, as I say, he played safe. But Seb ended up leaving a shot and he got hit. So now black is trying to find a way to come home safely with his 2-2.
He's still got this problem you referred to of no point to land on in his outer board. So, I mean, the obvious play is 17-11, 15-13. But I didn't like that. And while white's on the bar, what did I decide? I've lost my 1715. Oh yes, 1715, 39, 13, 11. I like, but that may be hopelessly wrong.
Well, I'll be honest with you and say it's better than my play. Well, I think it is anyway. So if we go on to the solution, my play was very simple. Was the same play that he made. So what I did was I thought, well, okay, I want to save all my blocks, so I'll put 2 on the midpoint and then look for a 4th one. And the flaw with this play, as you say, is that you've still got these checkers on the midpoint and nowhere safe to land them with 1 dice. So you're going to have to go into the area of the board that white's attacking, and by that time he might well come in. So I'm convinced here the computer has found a very good play, which is to strong point the 11 point. So what it's saying there is that the 11 point is actually a good point to have, because now I've got a direct landing spot from there. And I'm also attacking the 5 point. So if white comes in with a 5, maybe you can pick and pass, or maybe ideally you could point on him. But again, it's this idea of saying let's take the risk now while he's on the bar. I think this play is better than yours because it's less of a risk and more benefit, that you've done more work in terms of getting off the difficult points. So I think the flaw with your play was that you made the 15 point, got the idea of coming off the 13, but substituted another difficult point to clear instead. Okay, so he managed to limp home. So in the next problem, he's now decided that maybe he's got enough to be able to double.
Yes. So, and the score is now 7-4.
Yeah, so 4 away, 7 away.
Yes, yes. So I don't think white gets enough wins here. I think black's would have to be lucky to fill in his 5 point, but even if he doesn't, he can probably jump over white without having to leave a shot in most cases. He may leave a shot. I certainly thought I thought it was a pass because white will still lose a lot of gammons here, and doesn't get enough shots to compensate, I thought.
Yeah, so it's as you say, it's not a good position for white to take, because there's a danger that he'll lose 4 points and black will win the match immediately. And the other thing is that if you take and black just routinely wins a single, then he still gets to 9, so he's 2 away, which you don't like. So actually it's the kind of score where passing and giving away 1 point is very tempting. So if we can have a look at the answer, Julia. So what's actually happened is, you'll see from the move sequence, that black's been a bit late doubling. He should have been exploiting this idea that he's threatening to win a doubled gammon and win the match in 1 game, and that white would be keen to pass. So he's actually waited until it's too good, and given the fact there's hardly any bad numbers here, the computer's saying that you can actually play on safely for a roll.
Right.
So if you fill in the 5 point, maybe you can get the gammon that way. But if you don't, then maybe you've always got the option of doubling him next time, with the threat of saying that it's a position that's relatively easy for me to clear. So as you can see, I think Seb was felt lucky to be let off the hook here, in terms of saying that after having gone through all this, he's only won 1 point to get to 3 away, that he still needs his double gammon to win the match. Okay, so next position. So now black is leading 8-4, so 4-0 in the 7 point match, 3 away, 7 away. And for a change, Seb is thinking of doubling.
Yes. Well, I think what's the pit count? So white's leading in the race. when I looked at this before, I didn't like black's position at all, and thought it
Yeah, the Black's really been playing a racing game. So he's escaped one of his back checkers and he's moved the last one up to try and escape. And the cost of doing this is that he hasn't got any other development. So
Yeah.
White's been happily unstacking his heavy points and making points and getting builders, and Black's just been racing, so he hasn't achieved anything. And what that means is that when the game goes badly for him, it might well go very badly.
Yes. So I did say I double pass on my notes, but it just seems very, very cowardly to pass this with only one checker vulnerable. But of course, if he gets hit, he may have, if he comes in, he then may have to expose another checker. So I don't know. I said double pass in my notes, but it could be an easy take.
Okay, so let's go on to the answer. And the first part is clear that white should definitely be doubling. And strangely enough, this position I classified as a type I call race plus. So essentially, white's main objective is to say, well, I'm ahead in the race here, so he's leading by 8 pips. So he's not averse to just going into a race. So if he rolls 6-4 or 6-5, maybe he just makes the 10 point and says, well, I'll play a race where I'm leading. But added to that, he's got the volatility of saying, well, if he points on the 5 point, then he's doing very well, that he's got 3 points in his board and black's on the bar and black's got no development. But you'll see it's still a reasonably comfortable take for black. And the reason for this is that even if you give white his best number, and I don't know what that is, whether it's double 1, double 3, double 5 is good as well, then white's still only got a 3-point board, so black's got plenty of time to come in. Of course, he can always get gammons in any position, but as I say, I think white's a long way from closing black out. So I think that's what's saying to. There was a rule Kit Woolsey had, which was if there's no immediate danger of being blitzed, primed, or outraged, then it's probably a take. And the reason is the idea to say, well, there's dice in this game, there's a random element. So if we don't lose the game quickly, we're going to have lots of chances to get a lucky number and get out of trouble. Doesn't mean we're favourite, but we've got enough winning chances to survive.
Yeah.
So good double by Seb and good take by black. And sure enough, in the next position, we can see that black did get out of trouble.
Oh, yes.
So now the score features. So black is leading 8-4, 3 away, 7 away. So he's in a bear off with a very good race and deciding whether it's enough to double or not.
Yes. So first of all, from white's point of view, if he passes, black gets to 1 away, 7 away. So on my old match equity table, that's 9%. So if he takes and automatically redoubles, he wins the match. So if he has more than about 9%, he should take.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. That I used to remember these that in a 7-point match, if you passed to Crawford 6 away or 7 away, that I thought they were both about 10%. But your judgment is better than mine was then. That the computer says that Crawford 7 away is 9% and Crawford 6 away is 11%. So they're both about 10, and one's a bit under and one's a bit over.
So the question is, does white have that much? And I thought not. I mean, you can do rule 62, which I do, to see whether it's how far off a money take you are, and you're so far off that I thought it must be a pass even at this score.
Yeah, so black doubled and over the board white passed. So let's move on to the solution, if we may do it. So as I was saying, your calculation or your memory on the take point was exactly right, that it's 9%. And I think you need some complex formula to work this out. And I have a complex formula to do this. But so you'll see the computer says it's a blunder for Seb to pass. But here I'm going to introduce a couple of variables that aren't shown on the screen. So the first one is to say that the computer XG is always assumes equal players. So I think from this position, you could say that both players would play perfectly from this position. It's not a difficult position to play at all. So it's really, if the computer says you've got 11% chances, then that's probably what it is, irrespective of who's good and who's bad. But the other thing that was featuring here, so Seb is that maybe thinking that given the way the match has gone so far, that he probably feels he's playing better than his opponent. So the 9% is maybe what the computer says with equal players, but Seb is thinking maybe he's above that 9%, and maybe 11% is more as to what his winning chances is if he's playing better. And the other thing is that Black's getting into time trouble here. So I think he's got under a minute left, and that's not shown in the diagram, and the computer hasn't factored that in either. But finishing this game off in a minute for Black is not going to be difficult. But finishing off the remaining games, if there's quite a few of them, might be a bit harder for Black.
Yes.
So despite the fact the computer says Seb is making a blunder by passing, I think it might well have been an astute move.
Okay.
So now we get on to the next problem. So now we're in the Crawford game.
Yes, and
So Black is leading 10-4.
yes, so a gammon loss will cost Black very little.
Exactly. So White's gammon price is low, Black's gammon cost is low.
So, I mean, the sort of obvious safe in inverted commas play is 7-5-4-3, but that may not be aggressive enough, bearing in mind that there's no cost or very little cost to lose for Black to lose a gammon. So what did I decide? Something probably completely wrong. 8-7-6-4 was my play.
Excellent, good. So let's see the answer. So yes, yours is the top play.
Right.
So as you say, the key to seeing this play is the idea that when Black gets gammoned, it doesn't cost him that much. But the safe play that Benjamin made leaves the 4-point open. So White's always threatening to come in with a 4. If you look at the pip count, you'll see White's leading by 25. So he's going to have quite a few rolls just to come in with the 4 and win the game that way. So you really have to bet everything on the line here as Black and say, well, okay, if he doesn't roll the 5, I'm good favourite to cover it and maybe win the game in one roll. So making a play that's threatening to win the game is better than making a play that's trying not to lose it. So very good play on your part here. So let's go on to the next one. So this is the problem that Black runs into. That you can see what's happened is he played safely and White's managed to come in and get out. And now Black's found himself in a position where, despite the fact he hasn't been hit, he's not winning the game yet.
Yes. So he could jump out, but he would do that if he was worried about losing a gammon, probably. But he shouldn't be worried about that, and that gives him maximum contact by staying back for a long time, unless he gets pointed on, and it's not so good. But so what did I do? I said 14-8, and then I wasn't sure about the 2, but I'd probably just slot it because you've got to make it something.
Yeah. So let's go on to the answer here. So you've done the same as he did. So you've got the wrong play. Good news is you've got the right logic behind the position, but you've just used that logic to reach the wrong conclusion.
Right.
So again, it's this idea of saying that black doesn't mind being gammoned. So it's normal score, then this play of saving the blot and just leaving yourself with 3 outside checkers or 4 outside checkers to bring home is a good play not to get gammoned. But you're way behind in the race. So the problem is with this play is that you're probably going to win hardly any games at all.
Hmm.
So you have to say, well, okay, if I come out, that's something I definitely need to do to win the game. And then you basically say to white, well, if you hit me, then I was going to lose most of those games anyway. But if you don't hit me, then if you can't get past, I'll have a chance of hitting you.
Yeah. What about some of the other plays that you haven't upgraded that are very close, like 24, 18, 14, 12?
Yeah, so you can see they all feature 24, 18.
Yeah, yeah.
It's saying that you jump out and try and get some shots at the white blot.
Hmm.
But if you play 14 to 8, you take the pressure off that blot.
Indeed.
That you're not threatening to hit it at all next time.
Hmm.
So that when you do come out, you're saying, well, if you don't hit me, I'm going to have a lot of shots against you.
Hmm.
So it's the 24-18 is the idea of saying let's maximize contact against the blot.
Hmm.
Because what we want is a blot hitting contest. If we don't have any blot hitting, we're just 30 pips or 20 pips behind in the race.
Okay.
So you can see the computer says he had 10 seconds left here. So given the fact that he's down on the clock and hardly any time left, perhaps you might excuse his idea of saying, well, I'll just make the obvious play and play safe. And many years ago, I started off playing chess, and there was a chess book I read, and they talked about time trouble there. And the guy was explaining how a chap was driving his car and had a car accident. And when the police arrived on the scene, he said to them, well, normally I'm a very safe driver. It's just tonight I'd had a few drinks before I went driving. And this is the idea of time trouble, that of course you can say, well, I made this mistake because I'm in time trouble, but you're the one who chose to have the drinks or to run out of time, and it's your own fault if it causes problems.
Hmm.
So he made his play, and now Seb has a 3-1 to play in the next one.
Yes, 3-1. What was my name? He's only, oh, no, I'm looking at the wrong one. Ah, yes. So he's 24 pips ahead already. I don't think he needs to hit, because if black jumps out, unless he gets lucky and hits fly shot, white's still just going to win the race.
Yeah.
So he doesn't hit loose. So the question is, does he come round the corner and leave a fly shot at 6-4 or 6-5? Or does he play some awkward, like 5-2, 15-14? And that just kind of grates. I don't know. I would come round the corner and play 15, probably 15-11, and just aim to get home next turn.
Yeah. Okay, good. So you found the best play, and I can honestly say I wouldn't have. So if we could see the answer, Julia. So you can see Seb went for the hit, which the computer is not very keen on, for the reasons you were saying, that you've got a good race lead, just getting into a race is good. And I would have thought about this and reached the same conclusion as you, that I'd like to get into a race. And I would have just played 15, 14 and 5-2 and say, well, I'll have a good race and I'll leave 0 shots. But perhaps I'll stop there and we'll get on to the next problem and see why your play is superior. So if we get the next position, please, Julia.
So now black's just 1 pip down after his roll. So he could make his ace point, but no. What did I decide? I can't remember what I decided here. 23-14. So if he plays 23-14, he's hit a third of the time. The rest of the time, he's not winning the race. So 2/3 of the time he's winning less than half of those. So does he win more by staying back, making a solid board? I suspect not, because black would have a very brittle position. So I would just run 23-14.
Okay, so let me suggest to you a third play. It's to come out with the 5 and then stop on the 18 point.
Okay, so there are anything under 6 and white is in trouble has to be direct shot.
So if we can go on to the answer, so this one, it qualifies as one of the more shots Vickers problems.
Yes.
So if you run out all the way, then either he'll hit you or he'll go past and have a slightly good race. But you've left him a lot of small numbers that are hitting. So the 1, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, even double 2, they're not great numbers. But the big numbers that miss are the ones that are good for the race.
Yeah.
So when you stop on the 18 point, you duplicate his big numbers with his hitting numbers. So you'll see the double 6 you actually really like being hit with, and the 6, 5 he's probably going to choose not to hit you with. So it turns out you're hardly leaving any more shots. But as a compensation, you can see when white rolls a small number, and then he's the one who's in trouble. But black's the one that gets the shot, and he's caught up in the race as well. So it's a nice idea. It's kind of duplication. So you're duplicating white's big numbers that are good for the race with his hitting numbers, rather than giving small numbers to hit and big numbers to win the race.
It's very difficult to sort of see that play when you
yes, you kind of polarize things and you decide, should I stay out, should I stay back, or should I run out?
Yeah.
And having reached the decision that you want to come out, then you just blindly go ahead and say, well, okay, let's go for the race. That's why we're coming out. But the idea is, like with the last problem, what we want to do is attack his blot. So that's why your play in the last position of 15 to 11 was the top play, because what you're doing is you're saying, well, I'm scared of black just rolling a 6 to come out and then stopping there and 8 away from me. So now I've now got to jump over his blot. So the computer's play of 15 to 11 in the last position was to say, well, you're giving 2 shots, but at least you're making a lot of progress towards getting home. So when he comes out with his 6 to the 18 point, you can either hit or jump past him. So you were right in taking a small risk in the last position in terms of saying that's the last risk you're going to take.
Even if I didn't know
playing some variant where you leave the back checker back, you run into this problem that you have a struggle getting it round to your home board.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I think we have the penultimate problem, which is black to play a 5-3. So now the match has gone on. We're post Crawford, and black is leading 10 to 8. So it's a gammon go, gammon save problem.
Yes, I see. So yes, so white wants to win a gammon. Black. Well, I couldn't see anything other than 7-4, 7-2.
Yes, well, that's because you're a good player. So that's clearly the best play. If you're trying to get off the gammon, you don't want to leave any shots. You might well have the back 2 checkers stranded, but getting some extra ones back to join them is not the way to go. So he made the play of trying to keep the bar point, but at the cost of 2 shots. So having got lots of checkers sent back, he's in danger of getting gammoned and losing the match. So if we go on to the next problem, so next one again, Julia, but this one I think is best to skip over.
Oh, I didn't actually write anything down for this, so...
Well, the good news is you've only got 2 plays, so you can clear the 6 point or take one off the 5.
Yes. So, if you take one off the 5, you leave the horror 6-5 number next time. If you clear the 6, there are no shots, but you've got to consider the gammon. You want to win a gammon. So it would take, by my sort of half roll estimate, about 9 rolls. That's 7.5, 8.5, 8.5, 9 rolls for black to just save the gammon by running, assuming he can always run from the back when he wants to. White's born off 1 already, so he has 7 rolls if he bore off 2 checkers with each roll, which he won't. So if you take him 8 or 9 rolls to bear off. So the gammon is probably close. So that would be an argument for ripping one off. But if he clears the 6, he'll be taking checkers off rapidly and cleanly in future. The other thing is he will let black out with 5s and 6s if he clears the 6. He doesn't. I would clear the 6, but I would be not at all sure.
Yes, well, Seb cleared the 6 as well, so let's go on to the solution, because it's not intuitive again. So I think there's a couple of clues here. Firstly is the gammon price. So the gammon price is high here. That since it wins the match for us, we're very keen on winning the gammon. And the second clue is black's position at the top of the board. So his board is broken. So getting hit will probably cost you your gammons, but maybe not cost you the game.
Yeah.
And I think it's, as I say, you have to look quite deeply to find this one. And I think you did. It's the idea that if you take one checker off, you block black from coming out with 5s on roll 1. So you can see if black's next roll is 5x, 5-2, 5-3, 5-4 maybe, then he comes round. Then next roll you clear the 6. Now he has to roll the 5 to jump over. But if he rolls anything less than 5, then it costs him a roll in terms of having to waste more pips in board rather than getting into his race.
Yeah.
So that's the last position, and what happened was that Seb managed to bear off safely, won the gammon and won the match. So made a big comeback, being 7 down. And not only did he end up winning the match, but he won his next 3 matches, I think 2 or 4 matches to get into the final. Did a deal in the final, but lost the final. So he was losing finalist, but obviously got a very good result out of the tournament.
Excellent.
So that's all in terms of positions. So I'll just have a couple of closing remarks, if I may. So looking at the XV file I've got, it says that Seb played about 2.5 and Benjamin played about 5. So I think that's a good indication of why Seb might well have been right in terms of passing the racing cube when the computer said it was a blunder on his part and that he should be just playing the bear off. And then the last thing I want to say is that last week we had this special offer with Backgammon Workshop, and I'm happy to say we're going to extend that for another week. So if anyone wants to take advantage of that, then you can write to us at bgwsuk@hotmail.com. So that's all I have for tonight.
Good. Thank you very much, Jules, for putting me right on.
I hope it wasn't too onerous.
No.
I mean, it was a challenging match. There were lots of challenging decisions. So you can see that both the players made the positions I picked. Both the players made some mistakes in them. Some let's say mistakes that are easy to find, and some that were just very difficult positions.
Well, thank you to both of you.
No, it's
very educational.
Yeah, thank you very much, both of you. I think it's been a really good video, and hopefully we'll be able to do some more of these in the future.
Yes, I don't know whether there's any way as to whether we can ask the viewers somehow as to whether they like this format or the Grandmaster matches we had in previous weeks.
I can put out a poll when we've done a couple of them, to sort of see what people think. And of course, we can measure the number of viewers that we're getting on YouTube as well. So
Yes, I mean, can people add comments to the YouTube? I mean,
yes,
sometimes if you allow them to, they put rather rude things down.
Yes,
yes, they can go there and scribble away to their heart's content if they want.
Okay, so if you don't mind, I will rush off because I have my dinner is cooking, and we'll see how it goes for what we can sort out for next week.
Great.
So thank you again, Julia, for hosting it. I always say this every week, but you're the one who's doing all the work. It wouldn't be here without you.
I think I've got the easy job, to be honest. I'm not sure whether I would come out as well as Peter did. So.
Well, it's horses for courses with these things. I think there's many people would say that doing the tech side is the hard bit, and that shouting your mouth off is quite the easy bit.
Yeah, yeah. Great. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope you felt had a good evening, and we will wrap it up there until hopefully this time next week.
Okay, so thanks very much, and good night, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye all.